Dear students, welcome to Maverick's English classes. In this video, we are going to discuss the first chapter of the book Flamingo of Grade 12 English. That is the last lesson written by Alphonse Daudet. Right? But before I start with my video, I'll just inform you that this video will be divided into three segments. The first, I'll give you a brief overview of the chapter. Second, we will discuss the author. And third, we will discuss the summary of the chapter in detail. Now, many of you would ask, why about the author? Because when you know about the author, you know the perspective of the author, you know the social cultural background of the author, which in turn helps you in better understanding of the text and better analysis of the text. And it helps you to form better answers based on any kind of question that you might get based on the text actually. Right? So information about the writer is also important. So we will discuss about the writer or the author in the second segment. Okay. Before I start my video, I will also suggest my students that in addition to understanding of the chapter as a story, you must also go through the chapter at least 3 to 4 times so that you get to know the particulars of the story, and you would be able to answer the short answer questions and the objective questions that you might get in the examination. For subjective answers, understanding the story, understanding the chapter as a story is absolutely fine. But in order to answer the short answer questions and the objective type questions, you must go through the chapter and learn the particulars of the chapter. Right? So having said that, let's come to the first segment where I will give you a brief overview of the chapter, right? A short idea about the chapter actually. This story, the last lesson, is based on the background of the Franco-Prussian War that started in 1870 and continued till 1871. In this war, France was defeated by the Prussians, which was being led by Bismarck. When we talk about Prussian Empire, it consisted of the parts of modern day Germany, Poland, and parts of America. Right? The story is based in Alsace, right? During their annexation or during their occupation by the Prussian Empire, there were two cities, Alsace and Lorraine, where the Prussians ordered that French would not be taught in the schools anymore. Rather, it would be replaced by German. Right? The story is about a teacher, Mr. Hamel, who is used to teach French in a school in Alsace. And he conducted his last class, he made his last class a memorable one through his strong gesture and words. And he invoked a feeling of patriotism in all present in the premises that day. This story has been narrated by a young boy named Franz. He was late to school one day and was scared that he would be scolded by his teacher, Mr. Hamel. But when he reached school, he found that it was the last day of Mr. Hamel in the school. And then, for the first time in his life, he realized the efforts made by Mr. Hamel, the importance of French as a language, and he also got a pinch of patriotism. Right? So this was an overview of the story. In the next segment, I will talk about the writer, and then we will discuss the detailed summary of this story. Right? So continue till the end. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified for all the further videos that I'll be putting in for grade 12th. Right? And it will definitely help you in better preparation or revision of the chapters that you are studying. Right? So see you in the next segment. Now let's talk about the writer or the author of this chapter, the last lesson. The author of this story, the last lesson, is Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet was born on 13th May 1840 in the city of Nîmes in France. He was a French novelist. His father was a silk manufacturer, a man dogged by misfortune and failure. So Alphonse had a depressing childhood actually. In 1856, he left Lyon, a place where his school days were spent, and went to LA, where he became a school teacher. Many of his work reflect his horrifying experiences at Lyon. In 1857, he left teaching and went under the refuge of his brother Ernest Daudet to make a living as a journalist, right, in Paris. He had started writing till then, and many of his poems have been collected under a volume called Les Amoureuses, right? After which he gained employment in Le Figaro under the Carter de Villemessant's energetic editorship. Till then, he continued writing, and he became recognized by the literary community as a person having distinction and promise. After which, Mommy, Napoleon III's powerful minister, appointed him as one of his secretary, a position which he held throughout his life after that till his death in 1897. He was a monarchist and he was a fervent opponent of French Republic. So this is about Alphonse Daudet. We need not go in too much of detail about the writer, but we should have at least some idea about the life of the writer so that we can analyze the text in a better way and understand the perspective of the writer. So this was all about the writer. Now let's talk about the summary in detail of the chapter, the last lesson, right? Now let's talk about the summary of this chapter, the last lesson, in detail. The narrator of this story, the last lesson, is a young boy named Franz. Franz was one day getting late to school, and he was even thinking of bunking the school as Mr. Hamel, his teacher, had told the class that he would be asking questions on participles that day. At one point of time, Franz felt like bunking the school, but then he resisted his urge and decided to go to school. On the way, he saw a crowd of people clustered in front of a bulletin board. And he thought that, as usual, it might be a bad news because it was happening very frequently after the Prussians had annexed their district of Alsace, actually. Right? So when he reached the school, he found something unusual. There was no commotion in the classroom. It was all silent. And when he reached inside the classroom, instead of being scolded by Mr. Hamel, his teacher, he was told to go to his seat quickly. That day he felt really unusual that day because he noticed that Mr. Hamel, his teacher, was not wearing his usual clothes. He was wearing extravagant clothes that he wore on the days of school inspection and prize days. And even more odd was that most of the villagers, the farmers, the mayor, and the former postmaster were sitting in the back benches and were looking sad. Mr. Hamel started the class. He said that this was his last class, last French lesson, as the Prussians had announced that French would no longer be taught in the school. Franz suddenly realized what might be the bad news on the bulletin board on his way to school. He felt sorry for bunking his classes and not paying attention to his lessons. The villagers had come there to show their respect for Mr. Hamel's 40 years of service as a teacher and to show their respect for the country, which was no longer theirs. When it was Franz's turn to speak, he got mixed up and nervous. But Mr. Hamel remained patient and he did not scold Franz. Rather, he went ahead talking about the problems of their district. He said that the people of Alsace had an assumption that they had plenty of time. The reason why the students were lagging in their lessons was because they took their time and freedom for granted. He also blamed himself and Franz's parent for making him do household chores rather than letting him concentrate or focus on his studies. He went ahead talking about the beauty of their mother tongue French and how everyone should hold on to it even when it would not be taught in the schools. He went ahead and said that when people are enslaved, the only way to redeem their freedom is the language, the common language that they all share. Mr. Hamel had brought new copies for his students, and he had also decorated the class for his students. Franz felt that everything that Mr. Hamel was teaching that day was very clear and very easy to understand. And he blamed himself for not listening to the lessons properly. He also came to know that Mr. Hamel would have to leave the country. He felt his pain of leaving a place where he had worked and stayed for 40 years. As the clock struck 12 and the Prussians blew their trumpets, Mr. Hamel ended his class and said goodbye to his students. And he wrote Vive la France on the blackboard because he was too emotional to speak. Vive la France means long live France. Then, at the end, he leaned his head against the wall and made a gesture with his hands, stating or implying that the school was dismissed. So, from this chapter, from this story, we can come to the conclusion that we miss something only when we have lost it. Till the time something is with us, whether freedom, whether money, whether love, whether relations, till the time we have something with us, we do not realize its worth. And we later regret it when we have lost it. So the moral of the story is realize the importance of the things that you have, no matter whether it is relationship, whether it is freedom, whether it is your mother tongue, whether it is your legacy, inheritance, whatever it is. Understand its worth, take care of it before you lose it. So this was all about the chapter, the last lesson by Alphonse Daudet. In the next chapter, in the next video rather, I will be talking about the next chapter of the same book, Flamingo of Grade 12 English. Till then, have a great time and best of luck for your exams. Thank you.